Appreciate it. Can't say how lucky I feel to be here. Some major home run hitters speaking at this clinic, so I'm just very lucky to be a part of it. So I'm at Dorman. This is a little bit about myself. So I GA'd for Coach Batson back in the early 2000s. Before that, I was a high school coach at James Island High School in Charleston. Went to Clemson, then went to Burns High School, where Coach Schrock is. From there, I went to PC, small D1 school in South Carolina. I was the first head strength coach. Had 17 sports by myself and about 1,800 square foot weight room. And I was there I lived about 30 minutes away, so after about 2.5 years, my wife said either find another job or you're going to get out of it. So then we moved to Illinois. So I got the job at EIU. Spent 3 years there. Then we came back closer to home at Elon University, was there for a year. And then Dorman offered me the job. That's kind of where I'm from Spartanburg County. Went to a smaller school in Spartanburg, but Dorman offered me a position, and it was a no-brainer. So I've been there almost a little over 6 years now. Major influences, obviously I wouldn't be in this profession without Coach Batson. It was a great little over a year with him, and he's been a mentor to me, a friend to me. Actually had the opportunity to train his son his senior year, which was really special for me. So Cisco, no doubt, man, he's one of my closest friends, and tell the story about it all the time. I tried to get a job with him, and he didn't hire me, and that was when I went to PC. So it worked out, and things were all good. Joe Ken, same story. I tried to get a job with him. He didn't hire me. And pestered him about tier system. When I got the PC job, first thing I did was book a flight to go to Arizona State. And spent 2 days out there talking about Block Zero program and tier system. Adam Fight, he used to be with House. He's working now with Performance Nutrition. Did Reacher potential training up in New Jersey. Russell Patterson, another one of Coach Basson's disciples. He's probably smarter than all of us. He's not coaching anymore. He does everybody's taxes. And then everybody who's worked with me or for me. It wouldn't be where I am without them. All right, so I'm very lucky where I am. When I got hired, I had the opportunity to design and put a weight room in that most people, college coaches come in and they're kind of very jealous. So this is our weight room. I've got about 26 racks. There's more racks on the back side. We got a 70-yard track that runs down the weight room into our new college-sized basketball practice gym. And then right outside my weight room, I have turf and a sand pit. So we had everything we need. I had no complaints there. And shameless plug here, Hammer Strength, Chris Danzer, he's the man. So, and this is, kind of outside of the weight room. That's our football stadium, and that's our basketball arena. So, again, facilities-wise at Dorman, we got everything we need. All right, so a little bit about, I'm going to talk about our summer program and then our in-season program. But I'm going to start with how we set things up with our middle school kids, how that goes into our summer program, okay? So when I got hired, I submitted a proposal. They wanted to redo the weight room. And with us building the new weight room, they want to take all the old stuff and put it in the middle school rooms. And I said, no, we don't need to do that. We wanted to gut it. I didn't want hardly anything in it. So we did med balls, kettlebells, bands, chin-up bars, and plyo boxes. And that was 5 years ago, and they still look like the same thing. So we implemented Block Zero, which I'm going to talk about, at our middle schools for rising 7th and rising 8th graders. So when I get them as rising 9th graders, when we bust them over to us, I don't have to spend as much time teaching my Block Zero stuff because they've already got it. So the previous 2 years, they already got it. So the program philosophy, total body training sessions. I'm a tier system guy as far as program design. Like I said, House sold it on me back in mid-2000s and been doing it ever since. Technically sound. We're going to start our kids rising 7th and 8th graders in Block Zero, and then we're going to progress accordingly. So I determined what I want to do with my older kids, and that's how I figured out what I want to do with my Block Zero program. Variety, I think you can do it all. I think anything works as long as your kids believe in it. You don't have to be set in stone and, this is what I'm going to do set and rep wise all year long. It could be anything, as long as they buy into it and it's sound and you believe in it. So we do APRE, VAT, undulating periodization, linear periodization, 5-3-1, and then like Coach McKnight was talking about with principles, with the Prilepin's chart, we would do the same thing, especially when our Olympic lifts, we follow Prilepin's table. Make a big emphasis with young kids, posterior chain versus man in the mirror. They all want to look good, but we all know that to be a better athlete, we have to train what's on the backside. Atmosphere, it's hard not to have a good atmosphere where we train. I think our kids take it for granted sometimes because, our freshmen, our 8th graders, they just know that weight room. They don't know what we had before. So they take it for granted. They don't understand that there's only 4 or 5 weight rooms in the state of South Carolina that look like that. And 2 of them are at Carolina and Clemson. So but we have to try to keep working on our atmosphere and keeping kids engaged and excited to train. The speed development, acceleration, plyos, and change of direction. So I was a college strength coach for right at 8 years, and following with House and a joke with Coach Ken and the block development, block 0, block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. This is kind of how I had it set up in college. Well, in high school, I can't do that. That's my belief. So we stopped at block 2. I don't think high school kids can have enough general strength. My job is if they go to play college sports, and this is not just for football, this is for any of our kids, I don't want them to peak when they're in high school. I don't want them to tap out. I want them to be able to continue to grow when that college strength coach gets them. So we stop. We don't get into much variation. Clean squat, press, and then variations of that. But we don't do a ton of bands and chains and those sorts of things because it's just my belief that when they go to college, if I haven't done that, then they got better chance for growth. All right, so block 0 I'm very passionate about. That's what I wrote my dissertation on. I finished my dissertation, I guess, about 1.5 years ago, and I did it with female athletes, rising freshman female athletes, but we do it with all our kids. So I'm very passionate about it. I think there's, going back to the high school level was easy because I don't think there's a better place where you can impact how a kid's going to develop over a 4-year period. I don't think in college you get to have as much of an impact on someone's development as you do at the high school level. So we have 3 middle school weight rooms, and they service rising 7th and 8th graders. During that proposal in 2013, it was, we're going to train our football coaches on how to try to implement block 0 at the middle schools. So the first spring that we did it, I kind of moved around satellite all over the place, making sure that we were doing what we needed to do. But now they run it on their own. So I don't go over there at all. They call me if they have questions, but it kind of runs itself. They do that in the spring, but then we also, in the month of May, everybody kind of takes a break because we'll go through spring ball or whatever. The middle school coaches come over to our practices, so there's not a whole lot going on at the middle school. So we pick it back up in June and July with our middle schools. So we go back to 2 days per week, and we just keep repeating block 0. High school, rising 9th graders, during the summer, we're in that intensification phase. So we start adding the bar. Or if really, I guess, because of the rising 7th and 8th grade program, I'm able to get to a bar a little bit faster, which I'll show you in how we progress things. We run it, my current staff, me, Coach Anderson, Coach Morris, we run that 2 days a week at the high school. Then in the summer, as in the spring, in the summer, they come in 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday for lift, and then they're there for our team run on Tuesday. All right, so I get a lot, what is block 0? Well, block 0 can be different, or it's going to be different from one school to the next. You have to decide where your kids are going to be or what you want your older kids to do, then you have to plan backwards. Think about what they have to do to get to that point. So it's a systematic approach that safely develops and integrates athletes into your training program. Not someone else's, not what someone else does with their kids, what you want your kids to do. Helps athletes prepare for the physical demands of sport, and that's any sport, okay? Takes into account an athlete's training age and assumes that all new athletes entering a training program have a training age of 0. All right, so they've never done anything. We're assuming they've never done anything. Outcomes, you get acclimatization into your program. Again, that's your program. You're not looking for it to be what somebody else does. Allows for a period of assessment and evaluation. I got a great room, but we don't have, all the video cameras and stuff, which in high school level you're really not supposed to. So it's okay. But because we train our kids in this manner, it gives us an opportunity to watch them. We can watch and assess and kind of evaluate as we go through the program. It provides a conducive teaching environment. No music. I don't put any music on for them because I want them to hear every cue that we're saying because they're going to hear it for the rest of their career. Okay, so it's whether it's set hips back, knees out. They hear that a ton. Hip hinge, pop the hips on squat, so it's so on and so on. Injury prevention through evaluation and technique instruction goes back to just evaluating. The functional movement screen or however you want to screen your kids. We watch it by going through block 0 over and over and over and over again, and we just keep coaching. And then increased comprehension of application to sport and training. I think this is a huge one. Kids don't understand how pushing through the ground or absorbing applies to sport. And with our kids, once they get that, once they understand how applying force into the ground or how absorbing applies to their sport, then things start clicking. And then it just gets better and better. So the points of emphasis here, I love this quote right here. And I am old school. But I think you have to kind of get outside of your comfort zone. And, you call yourself old school, it means you're lazy and uneducated. If you say you're old school all the time, and you never change, then you're just being lazy. Okay, I'm going to clean, squat, and bench, or variations of. Okay, but you can vary things up and change things up with your auxiliary exercises, your running, all that stuff. So, getting coaches to buy in to the fact that kids don't know how to jump and land. If they don't know how to jump and land, how are they going to power clean? So they don't know how to jump and land, how are they going to change direction? So, you don't have to just jump right into doing max effort lifts with young kids. And there's a lot of that goes on, more so than I thought. Slow cooker mentality, everybody progresses together. We do this so much and for so long, most of our kids, when we decide to go to a bar, have got a pretty good grasp on what to do. There's always going to be an outlier, always. There's going to be a kid or two that doesn't get it. Well, you just keep remediating. But we try to progress everybody together because in my room where I am, sometimes I'm in the room by myself because football coaches have meetings going on, and we have basketball in one gym with one of my assistants, and we have freshman football in one gym with another assistant, then I'm in a room by myself, because we have so many kids going on in our class. There's so much going on in our class. So I try to progress everybody together. That way, everybody's kind of doing the same thing. So all of our freshmen are doing the same thing. All of our varsity kids are doing the same thing. Makes it easier for me to coach. And if the kid can play, he's going to play. So why just rush and load the bar and risk getting hurt in the weight room? Athletic development versus sport specificity. I think in college, coaches are getting a little bit more. I think sometimes at the high school level, coaches are still uneducated, sport coaches. They want, let's do sport-specific training. Sport-specific training. Well, kids play their sport year-round. It is absolutely crazy how much year-round sport goes on. And again, I was clueless. When I took the job at Dorman, I didn't have a clue how much AAU volleyball, travel baseball, softball, club soccer, how much that stuff impacted our kids' careers. You know, we'll have kids that play softball and then go to travel volleyball or club volleyball practice after softball practice. And then they'll play tournaments. You know, so it's really crazy what's happening to youth sport. So in the weight room, I try to keep everything as athletic minded as possible. Ground-based, I don't do anything. Like baseball coach tries to talk about doing things sport specific, I try to avoid it as much as I can. You know, because a baseball player swings a bat, you know, 1,000 times or more, in, you know, maybe in a week with practice or you know, getting to a cage, games, or just taking batting practice from the coach. You know, so I try to limit as much sport-specific training as we can. So here's some of our stuff. This is one of our middle schools. So this would have been probably, you know, rising 7th and 8th graders at one of our middle schools. Now these are my kids. So these are kids that have now come to me. And hey, look, I mean, they're young kids, so all these kids aren't perfect. We're still coaching them. You know, we work on snapping down, force application, putting force in the ground. And we do a ton of tempo and pause squats. You know, so here we are with about 80 rising freshmen. Uh-oh, what happened? There we go. So we had, you know, this video right here, that's the largest group we've ever had. I didn't know what to do. You know, we had 80 kids show up the first day, and I was like, oh man, how are we going to train them? So we just lined them up, one group down the track, two groups over here, between these two 18 rack rows of 18 right here, or rows of 9 rather, and we just started body squatting. You know, this is kind of the remediation or that 4-week, 5-week cycle where I kind of make sure that all our kids are on point with what they're supposed to have learned at the 7th and 8th grade level. Now there's kids that show up that didn't go the 7th and 8th grade year. So we have to coach them. That's why I don't just jump in and start training. We would go at a remediation phase for 4 to 5 weeks, sometimes maybe longer. All right, so this is kind of our progression. Squat progression, everything starts with athletic position. You know, so athletic position, we're not talking about on the balls of your feet. You know, it's setting your hips, weight distribution from the midfoot to the heel. We want everything back in the heel. Great forward lean, work on posture, okay? Because that is a kettlebell swing, that is a hang clean, that is a landing from a jump, it's a power down from a jump or to a jump. It's how you catch a power clean in a high position, and you know, when you get to that pull for a power clean, you're here. So you're in athletic position. You got to be able to pop your hips. You're in the hip hinge position. So we go body weight squat, goblet. Now body weight squat, there's going to be variations with that. You know, we'll do overhead dowel squats. We'll do 3 points of contact with a dowel on our back and go down into a full squat position and try to maintain all 3 points of contact. Goblet squat, front squat, and back squat. Our kids don't do a back squat. Well, I'll show you that in a minute. Clean progression, athletic position, kettlebell swings, trap bar deadlifts, RDLs, deadlift, shrug pull, high pull, clean. Okay? And then bench progression, athletic position. Why is that important? Because we're teaching kids posture. You know, when you get onto a bench, you can't just lay on the bench. You know, you have to have a tight back, and you have to learn to push through the floor. You know, I try to tell my kids, you know, we have these 20-foot tall ceilings. If that wall falls on them, you're just going to lay there? You're just going to use your arms trying to get out? No, you're going to do everything you can to get out from underneath it. So same thing when you're bench pressing. All right? We do a ton of back work first. You know, inverted rows, chin-ups, chin-up holds. Most of those kids can't do chin-ups yet. So we do a ton of chin-up holds. We do a ton of inverted row holds. Then we get, you know, make sure our push-ups are correct. Pull-aparts and face pulls. Overhead press. Love the overhead press first because kids have to push through the ground to push the bar up. You have to apply force into the ground. And then we get into our bench press. So these are our tested progressions. So in April, all right, I didn't do this semester because I didn't think our kids were ready. So we'll have to adjust all this. We'll probably do a 5-rep front squat max at the end of the summer, trap bar deadlift, overhead press, July, which will probably now become October, 3-rep front max, 3-rep trap bar, 3-rep overhead press. So I've had my kids since February, and we're still not power cleaning. Okay, we're still not bench pressing, and we're still not going to back squat. I'm going to wait until the fall. We get to a 5 RM back squat, 5 RM straight bar deadlift, and a 5 RM bench press. Then we go December, February. The reason I time this up is in South Carolina, state strength meet's a big deal. Okay, so and you have to do a 1-rep max at the state strength meet. So I have to have my kids ready, because that's the expectation. To right here in February, we got to be ready to go for a region strength meet to get ready for the state strength meet in March. All right, now summer training with our older kids. The objectives, it's not mandatory. I can't make it mandatory. So I've got to maintain my attendance or find ways to get kids there. Whether it's finding rides for them, making sure that they know we have breakfast for them. We have to find ways to get kids in the weight room. We want to continue to develop our strength and power. And this is something, increased conditioning. I think I learned it from Coach B and Cisco. We run like crazy in the summer to try to get our kids ready for camp. I want our kids ready for camp where we don't have, a ton of hamstrings because they're fatigued in camp. So I run the crap out of them. And I track their volume, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. Team building, team competitions, we'll do a draft. We'll have teams, and then we'll have a team winner at the end of the summer. I usually give them hats or shirts or something like that. And I want to make them uncomfortable. I want it to be hard. I want it to be harder than it was in the winter. And usually I do that because we're running so much. Uncontrollable factors. In high school, man, kids take vacations all the time. They know we got a dead week the week of the 4th and a dead week the last week of July. They'll take vacation in the middle of June. Can't do anything about it. Mom and dad said they're going on vacation. They're going on vacation. And then multi-sport athletes. So going back to, the way sport is now. If we have, especially with football, basketball kids, AAU basketball is very big in June and July. Well, I'm sorry, July. June is when our live period is for basketball, and I can't even remember how many games they can play, but they can play a ton of games. So I have to be careful with my kids that are doing both, because they'll go lift, run, and an hour later they're practicing basketball, or they're going to play like 3 games in a day. So I got to be careful with my multi-sport kids and kind of adjust what we're doing, or with those kids, even if it's just pulling them out of running completely because I know they're getting ready to go play 3 or 4 games. We're 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. Give them Fridays off. Again, kids and parents want to go to a lake for a weekend or go visit aunts and uncles, whatever it is, we give them Friday off. Monday, we're going to do acceleration first. Then we're going to lift. Tuesday is team run. Wednesday, we'll do change of direction. And kind of like Coach McKnight's big squat Wednesday. We're going to squat on Wednesday. One of the big reasons why is that we have 7-on-7. Any high school coach knows that 7-on-7 is huge in the summer. Well, a lot of times those games are on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, getting into the weekend. So originally I was going to say, you know what, we'll squat on Thursdays, that way they got all weekend to recover. Well, then I found out my skill kids were loving it because they were missing squat day. So we moved it back to Wednesday. Thursday, we're going to run first, and then we're going to bench. 3 cycles. Okay, so May, I consider cycle 1. One thing in high school, and I talk with Coach Baston about this all the time. He actually called me last week and started talking about discretionary period, and I said, man, I'm in week 15. We got them for 18 weeks, and it's training all the time. If at Norman we have a lineman class and a skill class, lineman first period, skill kids 4th period. And we got them both semesters, so we have a long training block. Well, luckily I convinced Coach this year we're going 2 days a week in May because they need a break. We've been training for a long haul, and they need a break. Yeah.
Coach, if they're at school in May Are they in school in May?
Yes. Yeah. The question is, are they in school in May? They're in school in May. Yeah.
So how do they just not go to class? If you say we're going to drop 2 days a week.
Then they do. Then they're watching. So the question is, if they're in class, yes. And then what are we doing when we go to 2 days a week? Well, then football coaches are watching film with them, doing walkthroughs with them, stuff like that. It's nuts, man. It's nuts. Cycle 2 in June, we got 4 weeks. And then cycle 3, we go to 3 weeks after the 4th. So we get a week of the 4th off. Then we come back in July and we have 3 weeks. July, I changed my training. The volume goes way down, but the running volume goes way up. So we're going to increase our volume on the field. All right, so this is the basic design of the tier system. If you open the Strength Coaches Playbook for Joe Ken, this is kind of the basic design. Now you have three total body sessions, session T for total body, session L lower body, session U upper body. From the top to bottom, volume is high, decreases as you go down. Now that's up to your discretion. You heard Coach McKnight talk about 20 doubles. But he goes to the next one, he does 20 doubles. Well, that's not necessarily the way the book says it, but that's okay because, it's up to your discretion on how you set up your training program. This is kind of a roadmap to make sure that you're getting every body part covered in your week. So it's total body training sessions every day, and then the first lift is the emphasis, okay? But, like right here, tier 5, I don't have time for tier 5. So we stop at 4, and then we combine the bottom into tier 4. So this is kind of what our summer is going to look like. We're going to clean on Monday. Then we're going to do some type of body weight plyo with our warm-up sets. And then we're going to go into a resisted plyo for our working sets. Squat variation, whether it's a front squat, box squat, pause squat, that's going to be our, I guess what you would term a dynamic effort block in the tier system. Press variation, whether it's overhead press, single arm, dumbbell, we're going to put in a variation of a press, but we're always going to pair it with a pull. Then we go back to total body here, upper post, pull, so working our upper back, and then lower post, hamstrings, whether it's partner leg curls, glute hams, single leg glute bridges, glute bridge with a bar, whatever it is, we make sure we get our lower and upper post paired in tier 4. Day 2 on Wednesday, we're going to squat. We spend a lot of time working on pressing our knees out, so we do a ton of isometric hip work for kids to understand on what that means. So we'll sit them on a bench, put orange bands around their knees, and they're sitting there just going to hold it. And I'm a Team Builder guy. I don't know if anybody uses Team Builder or Train Heroic or whatever, but Team Builder has a feature on their program. It's called the Whiteboard app. So I've got all my TVs in the room, and then when it goes up on the TV, it says person 1 or athlete 1 has this, athlete 2 has this, athlete 3 has this. And there's a clock that runs. I set a timer for each part of the set. So if it's 30 seconds, then they can look when the whistle blows, they start their isometric hip hold, and they hold it the whole time. If they stop early, I know they didn't do it. So it should be from whistle to whistle. Upper pull, because we're going back-to-back days on Wednesday and Thursday. I make sure that we don't do a press here. We do upper pull, whether it's a floor bent row, a banded bent row, a pause bent row, or chin-ups, or whatever it is. We're doing upper pull. And then, I like putting in a little upper fluff work for them here. Kettlebell movement, and then we're doing a posterior and some type of core work. Single leg horizontal, so whether it's a split squat, rear foot elevated split squat, lunges. We're going to put in a reverse lunge. We're doing a horizontal single leg here. And again, upper post, pull, lower post. Thursday, big bench, paired with upper post pull. Then we go into a clean variation, whether it's pause hang clean, 3-position clean, power clean front squat, whatever it is, we're doing a clean variation on that day. Paired with anti-rotational core, pull-off presses, partner pull-off presses, stuff like that. Then we're going single leg vertical. We're doing step-ups or pistol squat, okay? Then we got RDLs, stability core, press variation at the bottom, whether that's kind of, get back into dumbbells, whether it's unilateral, bilateral, dumbbell elevator, single arm dumbbell incline, single arm dumbbell overhead press. I like seated Zavickas press, dumbbells Zavickas press, seated on the floor with dumbbells. And then again, pair upper post and lower post. All right. So this right here saved me. I'm a big Microsoft Excel guy. When I started with a tier system, you kind of had to be. You call a house, hey man, can I get a copy of your Excel? No, figure it out. So look at his book, get on Excel, and try to figure it out. So for up until 2 years ago, I was just using Excel. Well, the number of athletes we're training, it's really hard to do Excel, for 400, 500 kids. So we went to Team Builder, and they do it for me. So all I got to do is go to Build Packet, and then I get this right here. I got my 3 exercises for Tier 1, 3 exercises for Tier 2. I got 2 here, third person's resting or spotting, okay? And then I have my 3 exercises for Tier 4, okay? Now, percentage-wise, for lifting, we do try to test at the end of the summer, but it is not a very good test. It is what it is. My first summer there, I was super hot because it was just awful. But then I realized that it had been such a long semester. We were doing so much running. You got 7-on-7s going on, and you got, again, kids playing multiple sports. Maybe going to baseball practice after or basketball practice. So it's hard. It's hard to test in the summer. So if we can get it, we can get it. All right? So we'll train up to testing a 1RM at the end of the summer. But we're following Prilipin's chart for power clean. And then I'm, looking at the 60 to 80 range on box squat. If I was using, we don't use chains. If I was using chains, that'd be 40 to 60. Pairing, you got your core exercise, your plyometric here. Then we're going tempo bench, whether it's a 3-3-1, 4-2-1, whatever it is. So we'll do a tempo bench in block 3, or tier 3, and then kettlebell movement with a posterior upper and posterior lower. Day 2, back squat. Okay, following Prilipin's table up here for our percentages. Iso band hip abduction, stability or anti-rotational core, iso pull-off press. Then we're doing bent row, little fluff work for shoulder, plate raise, hammer curls. And we got kettlebell high pulls, barbell glute bridge, hanging abs. Then we're doing our horizontal single leg with lunges. Then we're going kneeling hip adduction. So we'll do abduction, but we also got to make sure we're working on adduction. So we do adduction. And then we'll do fat bar chin-ups with the bars that connect our racks together. Bench press on Friday, upper post on the warm-up sets, and then still doing upper post for the working sets, but we're just going heavier. We're going to do dumbbell reverse flies. 3-position clean, then we'll go like a seated box jump, band front plank, RDL, rear foot elevated goblet split squat, iso hanging abs, all that stuff I showed you. Dumbbells, Zavickas press. 3-position dowel, good morning, and 3 points of contact. Just putting the dowel on the back, just working that athletic position. Just stretching down as far as we can, and then iso dumbbell shrug. So here's a little bit of our lifting. This is not summer. I just wanted to show some stuff. So we're doing a pause hang clean with, I guess what is termed French contrast, somewhere that changed from strength speed complexes to French contrast, so the terminology's changed. So we're doing a pause, hang clean here. We do it on the whistle. So I stand up at the front. I blow the whistle for them to lean over. They pause. Then I blow the whistle for them to catch it. And then as soon as they come out of the rack, they go straight into jumping. Let's see. The next one, we're doing a deadlift on the whistle. So we line them up. I stand at the front. We'll say one's up, grab the bar, they're down and loaded, ready to go. Whistle, we blow, they stand up. Then they go back, hold on to the bar, and go back down. Then we do that as a team on the whistle. Here we're doing RDLs with some dumbbell squat jumps, and we got little hanging abs going on in the back. All right, so summer running. Like I said, I'm a big believer in volume in the summer, just based off of what I learned from Coach B. Monday is our linear speed acceleration day. So we do a ton of mechanic work, and the red and orange band mechanic work, I got that from Coach Connors at ECU. Putting red bands up and holding it up here, working on posture around the waist, working on pressing our hips through the band. So we'll do red bands one week, orange bands next week. That's partner runs. Starts, do a ton of starts, working on acceleration. We'll do variations of starts, but we always want to finish with a three-point start. We'll do prowlers or chain pulls, and then young kids don't know how to run. So we have to work a little bit of top-end mechanics just because they don't have a clue how to do it. So we'll do flying 40s, and we try to teach them how to run at a percentage. That way we don't just open up at 100% on week one. If they do that, I got hamstrings. Okay, so we try to teach them to run at 3/4% or 3/4 effort to 85%, and then by the time we get to week 4, the week before the 4th, we're going to hit top end for 2 reps. After the 4th, I shift my emphasis to running. So we're going to get on the hill or the stadium. If it rained, we're going to go to the stadium. And we're going to run the hill or the stadium. And then for my hill, it's hard. One thing I learned in high school, it's hard to put a time on kids because there's so much variation in ability. So much variation. So with this right here, for like my lineman, if we're running 35 yards, we can't go 40 because if I do, I run into the road. So we go 35. Okay, so I got 2 sets of 6, but they're trying to get to the top at 35 yards in 6 to 7 seconds. Now I got a kid going to Duke. Well, with Coach Durfee, he can run all day. He smokes that. Don't have to worry about him. He can beat that time easy. But then the other kids, I try to give them that range, that's something to shoot for. So we're standing at the top of the hill. We'll blow the whistle, then we start 4, 5, 6, 7. And then try to get everybody across at that 7-second mark. Same thing with our combo. They're going 5.5 to 6 seconds, and our skills going 5 to 5.5. Here's a little bit of our speed work. So we're doing some chain pulls here on the track. Just working acceleration, 3-point start, blow on the whistle, and just drive for 10 yards. Right here, doing some band runs. So we'll do 5 seconds, leaning forward with good tension, and then the partner releases the tension on the band, and then they're up tall for 5 seconds. Then we're working our tempo runs here on the track. So flying 40s. So I think this is probably about 3/4 speed early on. We have 10-yard buffer, 40 yards, then 10-yard buffer. So it's build up for 10, and then maintain that 3/4 speed for 40 yards. All right, so interval volume training. Tuesday's a big run day, so we don't lift at all. Again, I'm a big believer in running the crap out of them. So the volume here is something that we played with until probably about 3 or 4 years ago. We kind of realized this is what we needed to do. We were ready to go when we got into camp. Took some of the same stuff that I had done when I was in college. Had to back down the times, had to back down the volume because they just couldn't handle it. And then, we've adjusted it to where by the end of the summer, this is something they can handle. So day 1 on Tuesday, day 2 of running is conditioning. So day 2, we do we'll do 90s with our linemen, 100s, 110s. Then week 2, I like to change it up from week to week to week. So we go 70s, 75s, and 80s. Then we'll do half gassers, which will be changing because of Coach McKnight. We will be doing backpedaling. I thought that was awesome. And then this right here, the snakes. I don't even know if Coach B does these anymore. Oh, you do? Okay, good. These things right here are brutal. It's a curved interval run, almost like if you look at it from an aerial view. 10 minutes, okay. And from an aerial view, it almost looks like a big M or a snake. So the linemen are running 35 yards at the top of the arc. Combos running 45 at the top of the arc. Skill guys are running 55 at the top of the arc, okay? So we'll have 3 stations set up around the field. So linemen in one section, combo, skill guys in another section. They hate that day. they can't stand it because you have to gear down and gear back up, gear down and gear back up. After the break, kind of like what Coach was talking about a while ago, we go to 4 quarters. We'll do 300 for quarter 1, 90s quarter 2 for linemen, 70s, and then we finish with a 300. Change the direction on Wednesdays. So we do a ton of shuttle drills, work combine drills just because we time them. We don't time them in the summer, but, it's a great opportunity to teach our kids, break it down, teach them the drills, make sure they understand what they're doing before we get back to the winter. Let me show you the video since we're running out of time. All right, so this right here is a figure 8 drill. I stole this from Coach Schrock back in like 2005. Man, I loved it. This right here at the top, we're working lateral shuffle, deceleration to the left and to the right, and we sprint across the court and decelerate, stop on the line. Okay? Then we'll come back. The next video will show, we'll do a crossover step. I'm sorry, shuffle. The first one was a crossover. This is our shuffle. Okay? Sprint across, decelerate. Here we'll do figure 8, but then we change it. We sprint at an angle and decelerate. Okay? Figure 8, we'll go 2 to the left, 2 to the right. So that way we get different directions at the top and the bottom. Decelerate at an angle. We'll do 60-yard shuttles in the sand. This is the big kid I was talking about. He's going to Duke. Can run all day. So just a variation. We'll do 60-yard shuttles in the sand. We'll do plyos in the sand, pro agility in the sand. And another variation of our figure 8 right here. We decelerate, back pedal, sprint at an angle, decelerate, then push. He didn't do it right. Push and cross over to finish through the line. Thursday, same kind of thing. So we got our heels here, whereas on Tuesday, we move our heels in the last part of the cycle. They go on Tuesdays. Here we're running heels early, 2 sets of 6, same time. So we got 60-yard shuttles, heels, 60-yard shuttles. Then that last 3 weeks, we're doing 4 quarters with 60-yard shuttles. And again, these times, they're for my kids that I know can make the times. I'm going to have a bunch of kids that can't make it, so I'm just looking for effort. At the end of the day, I just want effort. Here we are running the stadium. It rained the day before, so we couldn't get on the hill. So we just went to the stadium and sprint the steps. We'll do like 2 sets of 6 or 2 sets of 8, something like that in the latter part of the summer. And here's our hill. So we have all our kids lined up. We'll have like 2 or 3 groups of linemen, 2 or 3 groups of combo, 2 or 3 groups of skill. We blow the whistle, we take off. In-season training, we shift the emphasis obviously to practice and games. We want to continue to train at a high level. We want to continue to develop strength and power. We want to peak for playoffs. That's our goal. The expectation at Dorman is that we got to get to the playoffs. And in our league, it's really hard. With Burns, Gaffney, Bowling Springs, it's tough. Most of the time out of our region, somebody's playing for a state championship. So the expectation is that we have to get to the playoffs. And obviously injury prevention, which I don't have up there, that's kind of understood. We're going 3 days a week in season. We're going to lift Monday, Wednesday, total body training sessions. Thursday, we limit lower body work. It's kind of a fluff day, which I'm going to show in just a second. We do 3 4-week cycles. Cycle 1, coming out of camp, we open at everything's at 90%. So we do 90% of our 1RM, and we train at that. And then I gradually increase my percentages to where when we get into that week right before the playoffs, we should be hitting about 85 or 90% for singles on everything. Cycles 2 and 3, we switch back to 100% 1RM. And then like Coach McKnight was talking about during the open week, we amp it up. That's something that I learned when I got back to high school. High school kids can recover pretty quick. So we started testing during our open week. And open weeks vary sometimes to where it's early or late. We've had hurricanes come through the last few years, so we've had an open week before the playoffs. So if we have an open week early in the season, I'm not doing that. But if it's late, then we're like we had the last few years, we're gonna try to see what the kids can do. And that's not mandatory. It's one of those deals where I say, hey, if you feel good, we hit 95 for a 1, you feel good, you want to hit a 5-pound PR, get it. If you can't get 95 for 1, shut it down. Same thing. We're going to clean, squat, bench press, upper pull. I left off my auxiliary, sorry. Squat variation, upper pull, upper fluff work here, clean variation, press on Thursday, kettlebell movement, and then I put the Rocky training montage on, and we get after it here for a little fluff work. So this is like week 1, 90%, bang in mornings, pull off presses, and then we're staying in, we got 3 sets of 5. I'm pressed for time in season. You know, I got 35, 40 minutes, including warm up, and that's it. You know, we got to get them out because coach wants to watch film with them. Back squat, 90%. I do all 3 big lifts on Monday because Tuesday is a heavy practice for us. So Wednesday, I try to take it easy on them. And then fat pad bench press. You know, I'm a big believer in that. We kind of, I think it was Coach Sinclair was talking about the blocks yesterday. We use shoulder savers, you know, and we treat it like a 2-board or a 3-board, and we just weigh those percentages all the way through the semester or through the season. Day 2, box front squat, dumbbell RDL, you know, hip flexor stretches here, and we're going bent row, incline, face pull, strap bar shrug pull, iso dumbbell shrug, alternate knee pull in. And here we go on day 3. Uh-oh. The volume's playing. I don't think it's supposed to. Sorry. But we'll put this up on the screen. This on the screen, and I crank it up as loud as I can, man. And we get after it. The kids love it. You know, they'll start singing the songs. You know, it's good stuff. So this video is about 15 minutes long. Sometimes we got to play it twice, but just let it roll. So that's it. You know, big thanks to Cisco and the Georgia State strength staff, Hammer Strength obviously, and then Jimmy Anderson and Jake Morris, you know, my assistants. Couldn't do all this stuff without them. So how much 2 minutes? I got 2 minutes. Anybody has any questions about anything? Yeah.
You talked about the strength, like they have competition. Is that what that is? Like a strength competition?
So the question is, what kind of competitions do we do? Whether it's, you know, we'll do like prowler relays or, you know, we'll set up like an obstacle course or something like that for them to do, chin-up holds or chin-ups for time, and just have everything's done by, so we'll split them into 5. We have 5 teams, and team 1's at this rack, team 2's at this rack, and then we just roll with it. Yes?
Hey, Coach, I know you said you're real big on running volume in the summer. So I'm a high school strength coach in Georgia. I don't know if, like, football is, like, crazy here. So we practice every day. Do y'all do the same thing?
The question is if we practice every day. Some. I'm lucky. Well, I'm lucky where I am. Coach tries to get ready for 7-on-7s, which is agree to disagree, but it also helps me that there's days he doesn't want to do anything because there's not a 7-on-7 coming. So if we have a 7-on-7, then the kids that are going, he'll give me a roster, and then we'll back off the volume on running for those kids. Everybody else, they got to do it. Any other questions? Yes.
And when it's just you running these large groups, how do you assess who needs certain regressions and different movement patterns?
So the question is, if you know, when it's just me in the weight room, how do I assess who needs to be, you know, have regressions or not? I just have to walk. You know, it's nonstop. You know, sometimes I'm going to miss a kid, but you know, we just have to keep coaching the best we can, and that's why I set the room up the way I did. You know, so I can kind of stand at the front, see all the way down, or stand in the middle, and see both ways. Anything else? Yes.
During the school year, are your classes grouped by grade, or is it mixed?
It's mixed. Yeah. So we have a freshman campus. Those kids get bussed over, but then our 10 through 12 is mixed. We don't have it's not broken down by grade level. All right, I appreciate it. Thanks.